You're just here to wash dishes. Don't embarrass us, my mom snapped, loud enough for the entire brunch table to hear. Her hand gripped my elbow, firm and punishing, shoving me toward the swinging kitchen door like I was the help. I nearly stumbled into the waitress carrying a tray of mimosa glasses. I looked back once, hoping, foolishly, for someone to speak up. Not my dad. He kept sipping his orange juice, eyes glued to his phone. Not my sister, Tiffany. She was too busy giggling with her fiancé's rich family. Not even my older brother, Derek. He was already pretending not to know me. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I was about to disappear into the back, head down, heart burning, when I heard the scrape of a chair. Slow, deliberate, the room hushed. Grandpa, Elliot Monroe. He stood tall, proud, in his perfectly pressed blazer, 84 and sharper than anyone else in that room. He lifted his cane, not to walk, but to point directly at my mother. Then I'll eat where she is. The entire room fell dead silent. Tiffany's future mother-in-law dropped her fork. My dad lowered his phone. Derek blinked like he'd just woken up. You heard me, Grandpa said, his voice calm but loaded with weight. I'll eat where Ashley is treated like a human being, not like this. My mom's face flushed deep crimson. Dad, she's being dramatic. Enough. Grandpa cut her off. You may have forgotten where you came from, but I haven't. I worked 3 jobs to put food in your mouth, and now you're shaming your own daughter because she helps with dishes? He turned his back on the table and looked at me. Ashley, sweetheart, would you mind if I joined you in the kitchen? My throat tightened. You want to eat with me? He smiled. I'd rather break bread with someone who knows what gratitude means than sit here with people who've forgotten. And that's when the tears started. Not from me, but from my mom, because she knew what was coming. We sat at the small kitchen counter on mismatched stools. Grandpa passed on the salmon tartare and took eggs and toast instead. He didn't talk much, but every time he looked toward that fancy table outside the kitchen doors, he shook his head. Your mom's changed, he finally muttered. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. He already knew. I want to ask you something, Ashley, Grandpa said, setting his fork down. Why didn't you speak up out there? I shrugged. What would be the point? They've never respected me. He studied me, his gray eyes filled with something that looked an awful lot like guilt. That's my fault. I've let your mother's ego run wild, but I'm about to change that. I tilted my head. Change what? He leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. There's a lot you don't know, honey. But this brunch was a test, and your mom just failed it. My stomach twisted. What do you mean a test? Before he could answer, the kitchen door slammed open. My mom walked in, shaking with rage. Dad, you're humiliating us, she hissed. No, he replied. You humiliated yourself. You embarrassed your daughter in front of everyone. She's just a dropout who works retail. I felt the sting, but Grandpa didn't even flinch. She's the only one at that table who's ever worked an honest day, he said. And I'd rather give her everything I have than let you turn it all into a showpiece for Tiffany's wedding guests. My heart skipped. Wait, what? He looked at me with a small smile. That's right, the trust, the shares, the lake house. Everything. My mother gasped like he'd slapped her. You wouldn't, she whispered. I would, he said. In fact, I already did. I just needed to see your true colors, one last time. And right then, I realized. This brunch wasn't just a family get-together. It was the beginning of war. The moment we got back to Grandpa's house, I felt it. Something wasn't right. It was too quiet. No TV playing in the background, no clinking of his coffee mug against the saucer, no soft jazz humming from his vinyls like usual. He led me inside, slow and steady with his cane, but his energy had shifted. The warmth he showed at brunch was gone now, replaced with something colder, more calculated. Sit, he said, gesturing toward the dining table. We need to talk. I sat. He didn't. Instead, he walked over to a locked drawer in the side cabinet. I hadn't seen him open it in years. Inside, nestled among old documents and faded photographs, was a single thick envelope. He tossed it on the table in front of me. What's this? I asked. My will. I froze. Grandpa, I'm not dying, he interrupted, but I'm not stupid either, and I've waited long enough to clean this mess. He tapped the envelope. You are now the primary beneficiary. Everything your mother assumed she'd pass on to Tiffany, it's yours. The house, the land, the retirement shares, the trust fund, all transferred. Quietly. I stared at him, stunned. Why me? He looked at me, his face suddenly more tired than I'd ever seen it. Because you were always the one they ignored. You took the insults, the mockery, the exclusion, and you stayed kind. You didn't chase money. You didn't beg for love, you just endured. And now it's your turn. Tears welled in my eyes, but I blinked them back. They're going to hate me. He nodded. They already do. But this time, you'll have power. Just then, his phone buzzed. One look at the screen and he sighed. Speak of the devil. I knew it was my mom even before he answered. What now, Clarissa? He said flatly. From across the table, I could hear her shrill voice blaring through the receiver, even on speaker. You embarrassed me today, in front of Tiffany's future in-laws. Do you have any idea what that cost us? Grandpa didn't flinch. The only thing it cost you was your entitlement. I built this family, she screamed. I organized everything. Ashley doesn't even belong here. My jaw clenched. Say that again, Grandpa said quietly. You heard me? That girl's not even... He hung up. I stared at him. What did she mean? He rubbed his temple. It's what I've dreaded telling you. What? She's not your biological mother. I blinked. My heartbeat slowed, like my body was buffering the truth. She married your father when you were barely 2. Your real mother, Grace, was my daughter. She died young. Clarissa never wanted you, Ashley. She only tolerated you to secure her image. Everything since has been control and manipulation. My voice came out hoarse. So, Derek and Tiffany? Half siblings. The room tilted. I felt like I'd been sucker punched by reality. All these years, she called me a mistake, I whispered. A burden, and all along, I wasn't even hers? He nodded slowly. She never saw you as hers, but I always did. I dropped my head into my hands, shoulders shaking. I thought I just wasn't enough, I said. All these years, I thought I just wasn't good enough to be loved. Grandpa leaned in and said something I'll never forget. Darlin', their hate wasn't about your worth. It was about your existence being a threat to their lies. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing every childhood memory in my head. Every time Mom pulled me away from family photos, told me to stay quiet, made me sit at the kids' table while Derek gave speeches at Christmas. None of it was random. I had never been part of their story. Just a placeholder, a shadow they tolerated, until now. The next morning, I drove to the family estate. They were still there, celebrating Tiffany's wedding plans like yesterday's drama hadn't happened. I parked the car, walked right up the cobblestone path, and knocked. Clarissa opened the door. Her face dropped the second she saw me. You're not welcome here, she said coldly. I smiled. That's funny, because I believe this property is partially mine now. She went pale. I stepped in, brushing past her like she didn't exist. Derek stood up from the couch. Ashley? What the hell are you doing? Tiffany crossed her arms. Seriously? After yesterday? I turned to all of them, calm but ice cold. You lied to me my entire life. You hid who I was, what I came from, and then treated me like trash for not fitting into your little fantasy of perfection. Clarissa's voice cracked. You don't understand? No, I cut her off. You don't get to talk. You lost that privilege. I pulled the envelope from my bag and set it on the coffee table. This is Grandpa's will. Updated, signed, witnessed, notarized. They all stared at it like it was radioactive. He left everything to me, I said, voice razor sharp, because you failed the one thing he asked for, basic decency. Clarissa's lip trembled. This is a joke. I leaned in, lowering my voice. The only joke is that you thought I'd stay silent forever? By nightfall, the house was in chaos. Clarissa paced in the kitchen like a rabid dog. Tiffany kept checking her phone, probably texting her fiancé to ignore the family drama. Derek stood by the fireplace, eyes darting between the will on the coffee table and me like he was calculating damage control. No one spoke for a full minute, just quiet tension, thick as smoke. Then Clarissa snapped. You don't get to steal what we built, she shouted. You think Grandpa did this out of love? He's old, confused. We'll contest it. I laughed once, sharp, humorless. Contest it, I said, folding my arms. You'll only embarrass yourselves further. Everything's airtight. Witnesses, lawyers, power of attorney. Grandpa's not senile. He's just done playing along with your fake family show, Tiffany scoffed. You really think money makes you one of us now? I never wanted to be one of you, I replied, staring her down. I just wanted to know why I wasn't enough to be treated like family. Derek cleared his throat. Ash, we can work something out. Maybe Grandpa overreacted. Let's be reasonable. I tilted my head. Like when you locked me out of Mom's birthday dinner because I couldn't dress the part. He went quiet. Clarissa tried a softer tone. Manipulation, her favorite trick. Ashley, you're being emotional. This is a family. We don't need to fight. I walked toward her slowly. Say it again, I whispered. Her eyes narrowed. Say what? That I'm not your real daughter. That I'm nothing. She flinched, but I wasn't done. I stepped even closer. Because if you're going to fight me, I want you to be honest about why. It's not about Grandpa's money. It's because you're terrified. Terrified that the girl you called a mistake, a dishwasher, a burden, is the only one he trusted in the end. Clarissa slapped me. It wasn't hard, but it wasn't soft either. Tiffany gasped. Derek stepped forward. I didn't move. I let the red bloom on my cheek and looked her dead in the eye. You just proved him right. Then I turned to leave. But as I opened the door, I saw him. Grandpa, standing outside, leaning on his cane, and behind him, a woman. About 60, short auburn hair, wrinkles that framed gentle eyes. She looked at me, hesitantly, then her hand slowly lifted in a nervous wave. Grandpa stepped, inside. I thought it was time. Clarissa's mouth fell open. No, she whispered. You didn't, he nodded. I did. Ashley deserves the truth. I glanced between them. Who? He took a breath. This is Marianne, Grace's sister, your biological aunt. I nearly stumbled. She's been writing to you since you were a child, Grandpa added, but every letter was intercepted. By Clarissa. Clarissa shook her head, but she didn't deny it. You never even let me know her? I said, stunned. She was nothing, Clarissa hissed. A memory from a dead woman, Grandpa's voice roared. She was her sister and Ashley's godmother. I backed up, dizzy. Marianne stepped closer. I never stopped thinking about you. I tried every birthday, every Christmas. She returned my mail, blocked my calls. She opened her purse and pulled out a stack of worn envelopes. My name was scrawled on every one. I kept them all, she said softly. I took them in shaking hands, letters, drawings, even a faded photo of my mom holding me as a baby. And suddenly, it all broke. My chest caved, my knees buckled. I dropped into the chair behind me, sobbing like a dam had split open. Marianne knelt beside me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have fought harder. You did, I choked. She just made sure I never saw it. Clarissa stormed out of the room. Tiffany followed, slamming a door upstairs. Derek remained still, silent, ashamed. Grandpa exhaled. I wanted to wait until you were ready. I was never going to be ready, I whispered, but I'm glad you didn't wait any longer. Later that night, Marianne and I sat by the fireplace. She told me stories about my mother, Grace, how she loved vintage music and wore yellow raincoats even when it wasn't raining, how she used to dance in the living room barefoot and wanted to be a writer. She was brave, Marianne said, touching my hand. Like you. I didn't feel brave. I felt broken, betrayed, hollowed out from years of lies. But I nodded anyway. Grandpa returned with an envelope of documents. Ashley, he said, I want you to take over the Monroe Foundation. It's time. My breath caught. The foundation? I whispered. The scholarship fund? The women's shelters? All of it. You're the only one who won't exploit it. You understand what struggle means. You've lived it. I looked at Marianne, then back at Grandpa. I'll do it, I said, but I'm not going to play nice with them anymore. I want them out. No more using your name to prop up their image. I'm cutting them off. He smiled. Then make it count. And I did. 2 weeks later, the family received their formal notices. Tiffany was the first to call, screaming. You canceled the Monroe sponsorship for my wedding venue? Yes, I said plainly. The Monroe name doesn't sponsor people who mock family. But it's my wedding. My guests, my fiancé, deserve better, I cut in. From you. I hung up before she could spin it. Derek texted me next. We need to talk. This is getting out of hand. I didn't reply. Then came Clarissa. She didn't call. She showed up. Uninvited. Furious. She banged on Grandpa's front door so hard I thought it might splinter. I opened it. She didn't even wait to be asked in. You've humiliated us publicly, removed our access from the family bank accounts, canceled Derek's internship, Tiffany's funding, even my allowance. Is this what you want? Revenge? I stepped back, arms folded. Number, this is what I call accountability. She looked around the house like it was enemy territory now. Your grandfather's manipulating you. You were never supposed to have this power. Maybe not, I said. But I do now, and I'm not the one who lied for 20 years and shoved a toddler into emotional exile. Clarissa looked at me for a long time. Then her tone shifted, dangerously quiet. You think you've won something? She whispered. You're alone. No one is going to stand by you when the dust settles. We built this family, not you. You're just a side note, a girl who's good at folding napkins and scrubbing floors. My jaw tightened. I stepped in close. Then maybe you should start folding napkins too, because you're officially cut off from everything. Clarissa went stiff. You can't do that. I already did. She glared at me like I'd stabbed her in the chest. He'll regret this. Just wait. No, I said. You will. And I closed the door in her face. The next weekend was Tiffany's bridal shower, at a fancy venue that she'd managed to downgrade from a luxury hotel to a rented lakeside hall, after all the Monroe funding was pulled. She didn't invite me, obviously, but I was already planning my own kind of appearance, and I didn't come alone. The doors to the shower swung open around 4 p.m. Everyone turned. Conversations stopped. Even the champagne servers froze. I walked in, dressed in deep green, hair curled, chin high. On my arm, Grandpa, and right behind us, Marianne. We walked straight through the glittery decor, past stunned guests holding cake pops and fake smiles. Clarissa rushed toward us. You can't be here. Grandpa held up a hand. Try and stop me. Tiffany's jaw dropped. What the hell are they doing here? I'm not staying, I said. Just dropping something off. I handed her a cream-colored envelope. She hesitated before opening it. Her eyes scanned the contents. Her hands started shaking. She looked up, eyes wide. You're donating in my name? To the Shelter Foundation, yes, I smiled. Every gift on your registry was converted into a donation under your name. The Monroe family believes in impact, not vanity. Tiffany turned red. You're using my name to look charitable? No, I said gently. I'm using it to remind people what generosity looks like. Maybe one day you'll learn the difference. Her fiancé's mother clapped softly from the corner. No one else dared. Clarissa looked like she wanted to scream. Derek tried to hide his smirk. Even the DJ had stopped the music. I leaned in and whispered to Tiffany, Oh, and your wedding cake? The one you ordered with the Monroe discount? It was rerouted this morning to the local orphanage. Enjoy the backup from the grocery store. Then I turned and walked out. That night, I sat by the lake, watching the sky turn pink and gold. It should have felt like victory, but it didn't. I felt hollow. Was I becoming like them? Just then, Marianne walked out and sat beside me. You okay? She asked. I don't know. You did what was right, she said softly. Did I asked. Or did I just want to make them hurt like they made me hurt? Marianne looked at me for a long moment. Maybe both. And maybe that's human? I nodded, eyes stinging. But just as I was about to stand, my phone buzzed. A text from someone I never expected. Derek, I need to tell you something about Grandpa. It's important. Meet me tomorrow, please. Alone. My blood ran cold. I met Derek the next day at a small public park, neutral ground. He was sitting on a bench, hunched forward, looking 10 years older than the last time I saw him. When he saw me, he stood up slowly, guilt written all over his face. I thought you might not come, he said quietly. I almost didn't, I replied, arms crossed. So, what is it? He looked around. We need to talk somewhere private. No, I said firmly. Say it now. He ran a hand through his hair. Okay, but promise me you'll hear the whole thing. I'm listening. Derek took a breath. You think Grandpa changed the will 2 weeks ago. He didn't. He changed it last year. I knew. Mom knew. So did Tiffany. My heart dropped. What? He nodded slowly. It was always going to be you. He made the decision after you paid off Aunt Lydia's medical bills behind everyone's back. He said, that girl has more heart than all of us combined. I blinked hard. Why didn't he tell me? Because you were never supposed to find out this way, Derek said. He had a plan. He wanted to slowly ease you into it. Introduce you as the new heir. Let the family adjust. Then what changed? I asked. You did, he replied. You showed up, you pushed back, you fought, and Grandpa saw it, and he sped everything up. I felt my hands tremble. You all knew, and still treated me like a maid? He looked away. We thought if we made you feel small, you'd stay out of the way. We didn't expect this version of you. I laughed bitterly. So it was always a game. It was a war we were losing, he said. And Mom, she wasn't going to accept it. She started digging into legal options, pressuring Grandpa, trying to find ways to overturn it. And you? I wanted out, he admitted. I didn't want the inheritance war. I just wanted peace. But I should have said something. I should have told you the truth months ago. I stared at him. Why are you telling me now? Derek swallowed. Because I think Mom's planning something. I froze. What do you mean? She's been talking to lawyers. Her tone changed after you showed up at the bridal shower. She kept mentioning loopholes, family secrets, and last night she made a comment about changing the narrative before the media gets involved. My mind started racing. She's going to go public? I said. He nodded. And paint you as a gold digger. She's collecting stories from when you were younger, twisting them. She's reaching out to your old boss, your college professors, even your ex. My stomach turned. She wants to destroy your image so badly that Grandpa reverses everything, Derek said. I closed my eyes. So that was her final move. If she couldn't erase my name from the will, she'd ruin it in the eyes of the world. That night, I sat alone in the old family study. Marianne had left earlier that afternoon. Grandpa was resting, and I was staring at the Monroe legacy papers. Every asset, every donation, every board seat that was now mine. I had two choices: fight fire with fire, or change the story. I pulled out my laptop and began writing. Not an email, not a legal memo, not even a defense. A letter. One I would read publicly at a press conference scheduled for the next day. The following morning, the press gathered on the Monroe estate lawn. I stepped up to the podium, cameras flashing, whispers flying. Clarissa was off to the side with Tiffany, both dressed in stiff designer outfits and plastic smiles. I cleared my throat. Good morning. My name is Ashley Monroe. Some of you know me as the girl cut from the family, the one who came back with a vengeance, as the media put it. But I want to correct the narrative. I looked directly into the camera. My story isn't about revenge. It's about identity and survival. I glanced at Clarissa. She went stiff. For over 20 years, I was told I wasn't enough. I was silenced, shoved into kitchens, excluded from celebrations, and denied the truth about my own mother. Tiffany whispered something behind her hand. But I'm not bitter, because those years shaped me into someone stronger than their approval. And now, as the legal heir to the Monroe Foundation, I intend to lead it with transparency, kindness, and honesty. Clarissa started to interrupt, but I raised a hand. And let me make one thing very clear. My family's past cruelty will not define this legacy. It stops here, with me. I stepped down from the podium. The crowd applauded. Clarissa's face turned to stone. Tiffany stormed off. And Derek. He clapped. A week later, the headlines had shifted. Ashley Monroe, quiet heir turns legacy leader. Dishwasher to director, how one woman reshaped her family's empire. Clarissa tried to release a hit piece. It flopped. No one believed her anymore. And me? I stayed out of the spotlight. I spent my days visiting the shelters we funded, listening to stories of girls like me, forgotten, underestimated, written off, and I made a promise. No one would ever feel the way I did again. One evening, I returned home to find a package on my doorstep. No name, just a box. Inside, a faded photograph of my mother, Grace, holding me as a baby, standing in front of the old family house. On the back, someone had scribbled in soft blue ink, "You were always meant for more." and I always knew you'd find your way. Grandpa clutched the photo to my chest, and finally, for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged.